my God!
In an average tornado season, over 1,000 twisters tear up hundreds of square miles of America's landscape. And what makes them especially dangerous is how little we know about them.
We'd always heard about people getting in their bathtubs.
Well, my bathtub was about 100 yards from where my house would have been, so we would have died.
We don't want people relying on false myths, thinking that they're safe. We want them to know the actions that will keep them safe.
And that's where we come in. I'm John Rennie.
Fantastic.
And I'm teaming up with two other science journalists, Brian Mallow.
Is that like inviting a vampire into your home?
And Cara Santamaria, to separate tornado fact from fiction.
I want to see what would happen if a tornado passed over my car. Fire in the hole!
Welcome to your Tornado Survival Guide. This is the truth about twisters. So that seemed very informative.
Yeah.
More questions than answers, I think.
Our quest to find the truth about twisters began with a visit to the National Tornado Summit in Oklahoma City, where Cara, Brian, and I connected to gather leads about tornado myths.
Does anybody have a brush?
I'm not exactly clear on the safest place in the house. I've heard people say you should hide in a bathtub, and I'd like to find out a little bit more, see if I can get a definitive answer to that.
And should you even stay in your house? I mean, I've heard a lot of people talk about when a tornado's coming, that maybe it's a good idea to jump in your car and go somewhere else.
I'd love to hear what you find out about that. Yeah.
Maybe we can, like, check in later?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And so off we go, bound for different parts of the country, ready to sink our teeth into what really makes tornadoes tick. And my journey is starting in my own backyard. When it comes to tornadoes, does size equal strength? Some people think that smaller, skinnier tornadoes are inherently weaker tornadoes. Well, to get to the truth, I'm starting my investigation here at the ice skating rink at Chelsea Piers in New York City. Because they spin, tornadoes have a property called rotational momentum, which reflects the speed at which a tornado is spinning and the distribution of weight around its axis. Now, in a tornado, well, that axis is obviously the vortex of the funnel itself. But for today's demonstration, we're going to use an axis that is an actual human being. Olympic skating medalist Sasha Cohen. Sasha, thank you so much for joining us today and helping me with this demonstration. Do you have any experience with tornadoes yourself?
Not so much hurricanes, but I'm from California, so earthquakes and fires are my forte.
But you do have a lot of experience with spinning.
I do.
Yes, well, that's what's going to come in handy. When a skater like Sasha spins on the ice, she starts in a loose formation with her arms and one leg out. But when she brings them closer to her body, her weight distribution changes. The same thing could happen when a wide tornado gets tighter and more compact. But how does that shift in weight distribution affect speed, and thus, in a tornado's case, its overall strength? To find out, I'm going to turn an Olympian into a twister and measure how her speed changes as her spiral tightens.
You know, when I was growing up in North Texas, when a tornado warning would come on the TV or the radio, people would jump in their cars and try and get out of there, get to a safer area. But is that a potentially more dangerous situation?
Okay, go, back up, back up.
Tornadoes can travel at 70 miles per hour, and even a medium-strength tornado can turn a car into a missile. So, should you try to outrun or escape the threat of a tornado in a car?
It's real hard for a layperson caught in a tornado to make decisions about where the tornado is and whether or not it's safe to drive away from it.
There are videos all over the web of extremely close calls between cars and tornadoes.
Oh my God, I just flew in.
Like this crazy video from an amateur storm chaser named Ryan Connor. I caught up with Ryan online. Thanks so much for talking with me, Ryan.
Good to be here.
I wanted to hear more about when he went storm chasing on a recent vacation and got too close to a tornado. Your vacation was to drive into a tornado? I'm a little unclear about this.
Our intentions were not to drive into the tornado. We were supposed to merely just observe the storm from a distance. And the winds changed and started tracking directly towards us.
Better grab my stuff. It's gonna blow off the truck.
And that's when I seen there was a funnel cloud that just appeared out of nowhere.
Here comes a tornado right here. Here's a funnel cloud right above us. Here's one right. There's two of them.
All of a sudden, all the windows just exploded all at once.
Oh my God! Oh my God! The windows just flew in. Holy!
All the glass was flying around everywhere. I was between the seats, but everybody else in the car got very good cuts on their faces, on their heads, and their arms.
What specifically do you think blew all of those windows out? Was it the wind of the tornado or was it debris?
It was just a mess of just different debris. You could see branches floating in the air.
So now that you've had this really close call, are you still out trying to chase down these tornadoes?
During the time that we chased it, I was really scared. By the next day, I was kind of hoping we would see storms again. It's really an adrenaline rush.
Tornado chasing at its best, I guess.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me, Ryan.
Good talking to you, too.
Ryan's story is crazy and would definitely give me pause if I were thinking about hopping in my car to outrun a tornado. But before I officially declare that a bad idea, I want to see for myself what kind of damage tornado debris can do to an average automobile. Wrecking a car for science? This is gonna be fun.
Here's an interesting question. If a tornado is headed towards your home, should you open your windows? I know it sounds like an absurd question. I don't even open my windows if it's raining outside or just cold. Why would I open them for a tornado? But some people say opening your windows during a tornado could save your house. The thinking is that if the windows stay closed, as high winds move over a house, the pressure outside is rapidly reduced, causing the pressure inside the house to literally blow the roof off the place. So is this solid science or an old wives' tale? Well, if you have a question like that, this is a great place to come. It's the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety Research Center. Behind me, you can see their custom-built array of 105 fans. Each one is 350 horsepower. Together, they can create wind speeds up to 130 miles per hour. That's like a mid-sized tornado.
When we crank up all the way, it's like turning on a town of 9,000 homes.
How fast are the gusts?
We can vary the wind speed about 30 miles an hour in a few seconds.
Tim Reinhold is a world-renowned wind expert and the perfect person to ask whether it's a good idea to open your windows during a tornado.
The recommendations that used to be in place 20, 30 years ago to open windows was the idea that the storm moving over, the pressure drop in the middle of the tornado was so great that houses were literally blowing themselves apart from the internal pressure.
Tim has footage from an experiment he ran using full-size houses and a whole lot of wind power. In one, all the windows and doors will remain closed. In the other, the door will open, creating a new set of conditions inside the house. And that's a totally conventional house.
A conventionally constructed building, the way it's being built to code in the Midwest right now.
So how strong are these winds now?
We're up to about 95 miles an hour now.
And it looks pretty good so far. Everything seems to be holding together.
We've lost a few shingles, not a whole lot, but in a second, the door's gonna pop open on the front, and we'll see what happens.
As the winds reach top speed, the front door swings open, and all hell breaks loose. Wow, incredible.
When we come back, Brian closes the door on the open window theory.
There's no safe place in that house.
I think he needs a mustache.
Kara finds out what happens to people who hop in their car to outrun a tornado.
We've got Wally Watermelon all rigged up.
And I get some help from an Olympic medalist to see if a tornado's strength depends on its size.
Tighter and tighter, wow.
I'm at the Institute for Business and Home Safety, testing the belief that it's safer to open your windows during a tornado than to keep them closed. But we're about to see some strong visual evidence that challenges that myth. Watch what happens when the door of a standard house pops open while it's being hit with tornado force winds. The door of the other house will stay closed.
So here the winds are coming up. We're looking at the two houses side by side. You see the door pop open on the left-hand side, and suddenly, within about 4 seconds, the whole house is gone.
Totally gone. As soon as the door opens, the winds tear through the house and destroy it in seconds. Wow. There is no house. Incredible. Would that have happened anyway if the door hadn't opened?
No, we actually had taken this building up to higher wind speeds before that, and the door hadn't popped open.
So this really doesn't look good for the opening the window during a tornado theory.
No, this was a door. Could have been a window that was broken. It's the same thing. Letting that pressure in, particularly on the windward side, is really dangerous.
When a tornado moves over a home, that structure is being subjected to a complex combination of powerful winds. When you open any part of that house and invite the winds to enter, the rushing air puts immense pressure on the walls, ceiling, and roof, which can weaken the structural integrity of the home and cause it to break apart much faster and more completely than if it had remained sealed. So there you have it. Do not open a window during a tornado. In fact, stay away from all the windows.
Another prevalent myth about twisters is that the smaller they are, the weaker they are. But I suspect the real science of tornadoes isn't that simple. So I'm doing a little test with the help of a human twister. Olympic figure skater Sasha Cohen. So we're just getting Sasha outfitted for the purposes of this demonstration with a little bit of technology. Right now, what we're tying around her waist is the emitter unit for this device, which is called a tachometer. This is a tachometer that is specially designed, believe it or not, for measuring the speed with which skaters spin around on the ice. Fantastic. So, Sasha, we have you, our skater here, and that means we're ready to go with our experiment. We also have our 2 high-speed cameras, which will be shooting your skating in super slow motion.
Sounds good.
Are you ready to go?
I'm so ready.
Turn into a tornado for me. Off we go. All right, she is. She's getting into position. She's going into her spin. We'll see what happens as she's now pulling in her arms. Tighter and tighter, wow. Really amazingly fast. That was incredible. As Sasha spins, she is doing nothing to speed herself up other than tightening her formation. And because of the conservation of rotational momentum, as her weight distribution changes, her speed skyrockets. Wow, so when your arms and legs were farther out from your body, you were at that point spinning at something a little over 100 RPM, but you maxed out at a speed of like almost 270 RPM. That's unbelievable. So you did more than 2.5 times the increase in speed just by changing the position of your arms and legs, which of course illustrates this amazing principle of the conservation of rotational momentum. Sasha's performance demonstrates that a smaller, tighter tornado could actually spin faster than a bigger, wider one. And with wind speeds being such a major factor in a twister's destructive force, it's fair to say that some of the strongest tornadoes could be the smallest.
Some pretty strong tornadoes have been very narrow and can still be very violent.
It's difficult to anticipate and say, well, that's a safe tornado, that's a dangerous one. I think they're all dangerous, and you need to be seeking shelter.
So the myth that a small tornado is a weak tornado is false.
Car windows can withstand winds of at least 125 miles an hour, the speed of most tornadoes. But twisters don't just come with wind, they also bring a lot of baggage. Tree branches, rocks, and building materials can get lifted up and thrown around like shrapnel. The average car can take the winds, but can it take the debris? When we come back, I'll head to a testing lab in Atlanta, Georgia to find out. And while I'm firing debris at the family car, Brian will investigate whether it's safer to stay home. And if so, where you should go.
Now all I need is a cushion.
If a tornado is headed straight for you, should you get in your car and get out of Dodge?
Getting caught in a car during a tornado is a tough situation. You might try to outrun it. There can be rain and hail and debris that is falling.
I want to see how an average car stands up to all the debris a twister carries with it. So I'm stopping by Architectural Testing, a lab in Atlanta, Georgia, where they destroy building materials in the name of safety.
This is where we do all our testing. Windows, doors, shutters, garage doors, curtains.
Pretty much any building material.
Any building product that needs to be tested in order to be sold and used somewhere, they have to go to an independent test lab like ours.
Jose's team has an air cannon that can launch just about anything at tornado force speeds. This is the perfect place to test how a typical car will hold up to a twister's debris. Now all we need is a dummy car. So we're rigging this thing to test a projectile going into a car during a tornado. And how fast are we shooting it?
100 miles per hour.
Why 100 miles per hour?
It's based on a certain mile-per-hour wind speed picking up any object and projecting it in the air. It's not a 2x4. It could be a chair. It could be a canopy, anything.
To make this even more interesting, we're going to put my new best friend Wally in the driver's seat. I think Wally's ready to go, but I may need help carrying this thing. Yeah, let's just tilt it all the way up. Do we have another dowel? I broke this one.
While Kara gets ready to kill a car, I'm gonna try to figure out where you should go if you're inside your home when a twister hits. A common belief is that you should get in your bathtub, but are there other areas in your house that will keep you safer?
There's a lot of safety rules regarding where to be in a house. Each house is built a little bit differently, and so it becomes very difficult to make absolute rules.
Tornado damage inspector Sean Thompson seems like the type of guy who might know the answer.
Yeah, I've been looking at tornado damage for over 20 years, and we've seen a lot of tornado damage here in Tornado Alley.
Well, you know what I really want to do is get into the safest place in the house.
As a matter of fact, Brian, we're going to go visit a family that survived in their bathtub. Hi, guys. Thanks for having us over.
Oh, sure.
This is Brian.
Jeff and Tina Nichols didn't survive just any tornado. They made it through one of the strongest tornadoes ever to hit the Oklahoma City area. The 1999 Bridge Creek Moore tornado killed over 40 people and destroyed thousands of homes, including theirs.
There's all kinds of debris flying through the air. This was the most concentrated, devastating tornado I've ever seen.
It was probably a mile and a half away from our house, and we decided we needed to take action.
As the couple scrambled to take cover, Tina remembered a classic tornado survival tip.
We got in the bathtub.
I started taking the cushions off the sofa to put over us in the bathtub.
As soon as we got in the bathtub, we could hear it.
The house was shaking, everything was vibrating, and
it sounded like a freight train headed right for us.
Within seconds, the twister tore right through the house, and the damage was devastating.
A lot of the roof was gone. Looked out across the street, and all the homes were just flattened. There were over 40 people that were killed, and I think if you don't know what you're doing, you could be one of those. Fortunately, we got in our tub and it protected us.
But is the tub really the best bet when you're caught in a twister? Or was that just beginner's luck? Coming up, I'll check out Jeff and Tina's new house and see how tornado ready they are now.
This would definitely not be a good place to be.
Plus, Kara pokes holes in the getaway car strategy.
He would have been completely decapitated.
And John meets a man who took a ride on a twister and lived to tell the tale.
I wake up way down there by that red barn.
Wow.
Deadliest tornadoes struck the home of Jeff and Tina Nichols in 1999. Their bathtub survived. Lucky for them, they were in it. Now, they want to make sure if a twister strikes again, they're prepared. Should they head for the bathtub again, or is there a safer place in the house? To find out, we took a tour of Jeff and Tina's new home with tornado damage inspector Sean Thompson.
This is our living room in the event of a tornado. This is probably where we would start out, watching on television, right, so we could see what was going on.
Yeah, this would definitely not be a good place to be. Your windows right here, that's the leading edge of the tornado. That's generally where the winds are the strongest. And so that glass and debris could definitely come in through those windows. And the #1 cause of injuries in a tornado is from flying glass and debris. So you would be wise to use something to protect yourself from the falling debris. A bicycle helmet or a football helmet even will really give you that protection.
Since most tornado fatalities are due to head injuries, you can't go wrong with a helmet. But beyond headgear, where should you hide when a twister strikes? What about the tub? I mean, why not just stick with what worked the first time? What do you think?
Well, this is probably not the best place either that you'd go to ride out a tornado. Yeah, the window, #1. Yeah, you've got an exterior wall right here.
Jeff and Tina's original bathroom was in the center of the house. This one's not. So I guess it's all about location, location, location. Is there something about bathtubs that confer some safety?
The tub is anchored to the concrete floor, and so a lot of times the bathrooms will remain after a tornado.
Now all I need is a cushion. Okay, so bathtubs aren't exactly tornado kryptonite, especially if they're against an outer wall. But there's another option inside this particular house that Sean thinks is safer.
This is the master closet.
This would be more the place I would expect to be the safest place in the home. It's on the lowest level, it's centrally located, and there's no windows on the interior.
And if you have to be here for a long time, you can exercise. But these days, Jeff and Tina aren't taking anything for granted. They're hedging their bet against the next twister with a custom-built underground bunker.
Oh, yeah. Now, this is the safest place to survive a tornado. Obviously, if you have an in-ground storm shelter or a safe room in the house, those are the 2 places you want to go. The second choice is the centrally located, lowest level, smallest room without windows.
A tornado's intensity and path are unpredictable. You have no idea how or where it will hit. The main thing to remember is to avoid outside walls, and especially windows. And if you can protect your head with a helmet or even a cushion, that's a good idea. As for the bathtub, that myth is only partially true. It depends where the tub is in your house. So now we know a little bit more about where to head if you're inside your house when a tornado comes. But what if you're not? Kara is about to see what can happen to people who head for the hills in a getaway car.
Now that we've got Wally Watermelon all rigged up, we've got some cameras rigged up in the car too so we can see all the action inside. We've also got a slow-mo cam over here rigged so that when the 2x4 Well, I don't know what's going to happen. Here we go.
1.
Wow. You know what? But Wally's okay, isn't he?
Wally's still okay.
The 2x4 just barely missed Wally. The car, on the other hand, wasn't so lucky. So let's see what wind speeds that traveled at. Velocity is 140.79 feet per second. So when we calculate that,
97 miles per hour.
97 miles per hour. That's a typical speed for flying debris in an average tornado. I want to go check out the damage. Oh, this is destroyed. This does not look safe. As cool as it is to wreck a windshield, it's good to keep in mind this would not be so cool if you were the one in the driver's seat during a tornado. And remember, tornadoes don't just carry one 2x4. There's not one piece of debris that they pick up. If you're out driving your car in the middle of a tornado, you could have all sorts of stuff coming at you. So I think we should try this again. All right, guys, crank it up. Fire in the hole.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Wow, that went right through the car. Wally is destroyed.
There's watermelon all over the car.
That's some good aim. Wow. I do not want to get stuck in a tornado in a car.
Can people take a ride on a twister and live? I mean, considering the tornadoes turned neighborhoods into something that looked like war zones, it's hard to imagine anyone could survive those brutal forces. To get a closer look at a tornado's lift action without risking my own life, I visited the Windy Institute at the University of Western Ontario in Canada. Windy's tornado simulator makes wind vortexes that behave just like actual tornadoes.
Okay, the air goes in and we have louvers which controls the rotation of the flow.
So we have something that's that much more like a real
tornado. Exactly.
Here's how a twister's lift action works. A twirling pattern of tight, fast-rotating winds creates a low-pressure area in the core of the tornado's vortex. This low-pressure column combines with the updraft of fast-rising air to create suction powerful enough to lift heavy objects straight off the ground. To see the science behind this lift action up close and personal, we're putting a model house into the simulator. Roof is wobbling. Now it's getting even worse. See a lot of little vibrations around the farmhouse. Oh, and there goes the roof. But what goes up must come down. When it came back down, it was with something of a dangerous thud. I wouldn't really have wanted to have been riding on that roof at the time.
It wouldn't be anything to do with that.
If you're picked up and dropped from a height of a couple of hundreds of meters, the normal result of that is death.
But they say there's an exception to every rule. So is there anyone alive who can credibly claim to have been carried by a tornado and put down safely? Believe it or not, there is. And I'm going to Missouri to meet him. Coming up, Matt Sutor takes a ride on the Tornado Express.
After I get hit in the head with the lamp, I wake up 1,307 feet, way down there by that red barn.
Wow. Missouri native Matt Sutor currently holds the record for being carried the farthest by a twister. I guess you didn't set out in life to do that. No. That's one story I've got to hear. Had you even, like, seen a tornado up close?
No, never ever in my entire life.
In 2006, an EF2 tornado, one with wind speeds of about 120 miles per hour, hit and demolished Matt's trailer home while he was inside.
Whoa, more. There's vortices everywhere. Extremely dangerous.
That night, they gave us sirens or, warnings over the television and whatnot. We didn't think nothing about it because nothing ever happened.
I guess you hear those kinds of things a lot around.
Right. The weatherman came on TV, so there's tornadoes. When he told us, if you're in a mobile home in this area, take shelter, we ignored that. And about that time, the window broke over the couch. I felt the trailer twisting, tumbling. The lights kicked out.
What Matt says happened next is hard to even imagine.
After I get hit in the head with the lamp, I wake up 1,307 feet, way down there by that red barn.
Wow. 1,307 feet. That's like 4 football fields away. How could someone survive that? So I'm thinking, is it possible there could be another way he found himself so far from home?
And right here's where I landed. Out and it scattered all our belongings across this field.
So I have to ask this. You were hit on the head, you were unconscious, you don't have like a specific memory of having been picked up. You started off there and you ended up way over here. Are there any other possibilities for what could have happened? I mean, could you have been knocked out and maybe just like wandered and just came to here?
That's quite a ways to, wander.
Right.
There's been a few people that, think I was making it up, but I mean, I know what happened.
Hopefully, there won't be anybody who's in a position to be trying to top your record anytime soon. So, I have to say, my investigation into the myth of whether someone can be carried away by a tornado and survive is a bit inconclusive. On the one hand, we know just how violent tornado forces can be on anything caught inside of it. On the other, Matt Sutor seems like a stand-up guy with a spectacular survival story. So I'm going to call this one true. Extremely rare, but true.
So you don't want to jump in your car to try to outrun a tornado. But what if you're already driving and one unexpectedly strikes down? Where should you go? There's a myth that you're supposed to seek shelter underneath a highway overpass. Is this true?
I'm hoping the Weather Channel's resident tornado expert, Dr. Greg Forbes, has the answer.
Welcome to the Weather Channel. This is the floor that we call the Global Forecast Center. If there's a tornado threat, I'll be broadcasting from here. We sort of call this the expert set.
Oh, so we're on set right now.
We're on set right now.
This is so cool, and it kind of reminds me of why I'm here, which is to investigate this myth that if you're stuck out in your car and a tornado touches down unexpectedly, the safest place to go is underneath a highway overpass. Do you know anything about that?
I do. In fact, I can show you the video when that myth began.
So apparently, this myth got started with a video shot beneath an overpass during a Kansas tornado.
Here's the video. It's called the Kansas Turnpike video, April 26, 1991.
Faster, Greg. It's catching us. You gotta go, buddy.
Some folks in a car, some reporters, they're driving up the turnpike. They see a tornado. They're going to get out of the car and scramble to get up under the overpass.
So that's why they have their camera.
Yeah,
it's a camera crew.
It was a camera crew.
Get up under the girders. Is that where you want to go? Yes.
The thinking goes, if the overpass protected these guys, maybe it's a good place to ride out a twister.
Hang on, Ted. I got you. You're okay. Hang on. You're all right.
Now, this was a tornado that was a little on the weak side, but you can see...
It's weak and it still picked up a car.
Yeah.
So now the tornado is going through the overpass.
The tornado is going basically just to the left of the overpass, or they're in part of the tornado.
The tornado's passed, the camera's still rolling, and the crew behind it is unharmed. This is visual proof that you can duck beneath an overpass and survive a tornado. But to hear Dr. Forbes tell it, this case is the exception, not the rule.
There were several instances, similar area, May 3rd, 1999. At least 3 people lost their lives in 3 separate overpasses. One lady left her home and drove intentionally to an overpass and was killed as a consequence.
She was relatively safe in her own house, decided to get out of her
Thought
house.
she would be safer to go to an overpass, went there and perished.
Apparently, in a lot of cases, it's actually worse to duck under an overpass. When a tornado's winds enter a constricted area, a wind tunnel effect funnels the wind energy into a smaller space, increasing the speed of the wind and debris it carries. So anything, or anyone, trapped in that space experiences more intense winds and potentially deadly debris than if they were in an open area.
If you could get out of the car into a sturdy building, that would be ideal, but
if you can't, let's say you're out in the middle of a field, do you want to go to the lowest lying ground possible?
Probably here, the best thing would have been to get down in a ditch.
So there you have it. Overpasses are definitely not the safest place to be if a tornado is heading towards you.
Coming up, Brian and Kara team up on our final Twister myth. Can tornadoes really hop over one house and destroy the next? And if so, how? Find out when we return.
So there's this idea out there that tornadoes can skip over certain houses even while they decimate the house next door. You'll see sometimes in the aftermath of a tornado that one house will be leveled while the one next to it is totally fine. Does this mean the tornado hopped that house? And how could that happen? To get to the bottom of this, I met up with some guys who see a lot of tornado damage up close and personal. A group of Oklahoma firefighters stationed right in the heart of Tornado Alley. Not only have these guys responded after tornadoes, but several of them actually lost their own houses in them too. Your house was destroyed?
Right, May 24th, 2011. My house, along with David's house, we were right in the target zone, right in the dead center of the tornado. It was quite an experience.
Yeah, and then what did you see of your house?
There was absolutely nothing. It was a pile. All of our vehicles were gone, and then every direction I looked was just nothing but devastation. They tell you to get in the bathtub. Well, my bathtub was about 100 yards from where my house would have been, so we would have died if we would have been in our bathtub.
Well, so much for my bathtub plan. I was really clinging to that myth, too. Some people say that tornadoes can hop and skip along. They touch down and then pick back up and touch down later, and so that they leave damage in like different weird patterns like that. Have you ever personally seen a tornado do anything like that?
I have.
Yeah?
They do, and you can tell specifically by the marks on the ground. I call them skid marks.
I'm no meteorologist, but I think that the smaller tornadoes can do the hop, skip, and a jump.
Well, thank you for your time, and we also really appreciate the work you're doing as first responders going out when it's still really dangerous. Well, according to these guys, tornadoes can hop and skip along their path. And they've seen the aftermath of so many tornadoes, they should know. But do damage patterns alone tell the whole story?
Hi, Josh. Thanks for connecting with me today.
Good morning. While I was at the firehouse, Kara posed that question to veteran storm chaser and tornado expert Josh Werman.
When we look at the damage patterns of a tornado, sometimes one house will be hit and the house right next door won't even be touched. What do you think the explanation is for that?
Small changes in the tornado intensity and the strength of the wind could also have major consequences, whether or not a house is destroyed or not. So, just like with a flickering flame, it's hot just outside, just inside. The same is true with a tornado. Whether or not the tornado causes damage to particular buildings can be a factor, whether it's just over a threshold or below a threshold for knocking down that particular building, tearing off that particular roof.
So it sounds like what you're saying is that tornadoes actually don't skip or jump around, and there are other explanations for the damage patterns that we see.
It's possible a tornado can be strong here and then weaken and then be strong again. But most likely, for most tornadoes, the gaps in damage are caused by structural differences or just luck.
I see. Well, thanks so much, Josh. That's really helped out.
Sure, good talking to you.
So it sounds like although the damage patterns may suggest tornadoes can hop over some structures and hit others, the science behind the phenomenon isn't quite that simple. With apologies to our firefighters, it seems this is just a myth. Now that we've concluded our final investigations, it's time to reconnect with the guys in Oklahoma City and recap what we've learned.
Hi, guys.
Hey.
I see you started without us.
I know.
Can I get you to a couple menus, or do you know what you're going to get?
This.
A couple of flying cows?
Yeah.
Perfect. Flying cow, very appropriate.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
How do you think that cherry got embedded in the whipped cream?
70-mile-per-hour winds, that's how. Thank you.
Marvelous. So it sounds like we've learned a lot about the different myths and which ones hold water and which ones don't.
Let's go through the list.
All right.
You can survive being transported by a twister. That's true, but it's extremely rare.
I would almost say it's hard to be sure whether it's even true.
It's a good idea to hop in a car and try to outrun a tornado. False. The bathtub is safe cover in a tornado.
Depends where it is in the house.
So, partially true. Opening your windows in a tornado will equalize the pressure and save your house.
No.
False. I'm seeing a pattern here.
Misconceptions.
Yeah. It's safe to wait out a tornado under an overpass. Not a good idea. That one's false. A small tornado is a weak tornado.
Nope, you can't correlate.
No, you really can't. That's false. And tornadoes can hop some structures and destroy others.
Probably not.
Seems to be false.
Well, that was really great work, guys. We got through a lot of great myths, and I think we've got to the bottom of some enduring mysteries about how tornadoes work.
Definitely.
We should do this again sometime.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Just so you guys know, there is a tornado warning in effect, so you may want to take cover.
Here we go again.
You think they have a basement?
Well, I just hope we're going to have enough time to finish our ice cream.
Yeah.
In case of a tornado, should you hurry up and finish your ice cream? That's true.
True.